Hello and welcome to Everyday Excel. So this series of Excel trainings are targeted for specific job roles. So let's start off with the administrator role. Administrator role is a starting position or a beginner administrator, for example. It's not a startup position. Suppose someone who's getting an entry into an administrator role are required to have basic Excel knowledge, and some of the tools that we identify as mandatory for administrator would be starting off with Sumifs, which are kind of simple yet very useful tips and tricks. So all these are important. Pivot table can go a little bit extensive and including charts. So I will be creating a video for each of these topics one by one. So it becomes easier and you can select the video or the training that you need instead of going through all of them in a single video trying to find which timeline each of them is. The Sumif and Countif will be in this video. Going forward with data filters in the next one, I'll try to put data sorting in it. So I'll try to reduce the number of videos, but the gist of it is that you'll have 11 different tools to learn from, which will give you the skills to smoothly do your work as an admin or any professional for that matter. Any even it's not just an administrator, even salesperson requires to do a lot of these calculations, and hope these trainings will help it easier for you. Alright, so starting off with Sumif or Sumifs. What I did here is created a sheet for each of them and have the data or base work ready so that we don't have to go through, or you don't have to spend time looking at me preparing these tables for you to evaluate or for you to see how these formulas work. Alright, so starting off with the Sumif function. Okay, so we are starting with Sumif. Now what Sumif does, you know that sum is basically to calculate the total sum of values, right? So if I have to do sum, I would just do sum, straightforward, select the cells, close the bracket, enter, and you get the total sum over here. Obviously if brings in an additional condition to the sum formula, which is basically you are adding, or you giving a sum, calculating the sum based on a set criteria. So here we are looking at how can you calculate the sales. So let's avoid any of these tables, right? Concentrate on this one. Your criteria is to pull out sales that's more than $100. Okay, for that what you have to do is start off with equal sign as you would do for any formula. Instead of sum, you mention Sumif, open brackets, and you get the help over here which says you got to select the range of cells, enter the criteria after a comma, and the sum range, as in what is your additional criteria to it. And that would be more, let's see it in action over here. So sum of range would be, you're going to select here, select the cells. Alright, now comma, your criteria is basically the value should be more than $100, open colon, greater than $100. You don't have to put a dollar sign because that's your formatting. This one, close the apostrophe and close the bracket. We'll get to the second range in a second. The next one, sum if D6 is to D10, that is the range more than $100, which means it will add all the sales that is more than $100. Enter 581. Let's see if we got it right, except for $100. The rest of them is more than $100. So you add, when you click all of them, if you go bottom line over here, you will see the average is 145, count is 4 cells that you've selected, and the total is 581, which is 581 that you got over here. Now if you want to change the formula, or actually you have the units as dollars, so put that as dollars. That makes it more relatable. Next, what you have to look at is the sum of the sales where the representative name is Jim. Okay, we don't have a Jim over here. Let's name this guy Jim and one more Jim, right? So we have something to add. So wherever it says Jim, you want that to be added. Now here again, we'll go back to the formula, equals Sumif, open bracket, select where you have the representative name, because that's the criteria you're looking at. So select the range where you're going to search for the criteria, alright, comma, and you're going to search for Jim. So open the brackets, semicolon, apostrophe, enter the name of the individual, close, comma. Okay, now here is where your sum range would come, right? Before we added sum by selecting the sales. Now here you are searching for Jim, but you will be able to add the sales. You don't want to add Jim and Jim you cannot add, because those are basic strings or characters. They are not a value. So that's where you will select the sum range. Which range of cells do you want to sum? So here we go. Select the range, close the bracket, enter. $245. Okay, so let's add manually and see if it's correct. Jim 100, Jim 145, and the sum is 245. You see at the bottom over here it says $245 and 245. So you have added the sales of only Jim. Okay, and one of the good practices is always not hard coding or entering the names when you're entering the formulas. I would probably do this as, I will insert over here. Okay, I put criteria, and I'll put the value over here, value, right? So this is $100. Here the name should be Jim, state should be CA. Okay, now this is capital J. Sometimes the caps do play around. Okay, so over here what I would probably do is, instead of mentioning greater than 100, I'll remove the 100 from here and I'll mention and value. Okay, let's try this. 581. So what you're doing here is you are giving the location of the value that that is for the criteria. So if you're saying more than $100, if I say more than $150, there you go. Anything that's more than 150 is 166. So if I put $90, automatically it searches for anything above 190, and all of them are about 190, which gives you $681. So this is the most preferred way. I normally do this in this manner, because then you don't have to go into this formulas and change the values, right? And over here, instead of Jim, I would mention that as the cell number, right? So it becomes easy for me to just type in Tim here and bring that value. So total of Sims or Tim's sales is 166. If it's Karen, it's 150, and when you're going back to Jim, it's 245, right? So dynamically changing based on your value reference over here. Now similarly we'll check the Sumif for the state CA, right? So instead of entering the formula again, what I would do is, the benefit of doing this by entering the or referencing the cell value is, you drag it down and the formula is automatically copied. Now why this has brought in blank is because we are searching for Jim in representative name, right? And here we are searching for CA in representative name. It should be in state. Plus, if you see that the cell reference has come one step down, it's supposed to start from B6, instead it's starting from B7. That's because your reference changes when you drag the value or the formula down. In order to lock it, okay, what you have to do is put a $ before whichever column or row number you want to lock. So here we want to lock both row number and the column number, so I put $ before both. G7 I'll not, because when we drag down we want the value to the reference to change to G8. Alright, so we'll leave that as it is, and the sales value remains the same. Okay, and now if I drag down, still you don't get it because it's searching for CA in rep. But here you see right now, once we updated it, it's still sticking to the same range. The range is not changing. Instead of B, this should be the state. This is where you're searching for CA. I'll lock it by putting $, enter, and 220. So if I put GA, 145, so CA 220. Alright, so that's how you calculate or bring the sum of values. Right, and suppose you want to just check the total over here, just do auto sum, or you can manually enter it, enter, and that's the total value for your sum of category. Okay, so we have seen how to refer a different cell for the values or formulas, and you've seen the Sumif, right? Now what is Sumifs? Okay, it's kind of straightforward if you look at it. Okay, what it means is that Sumif is one if, Sumifs is multiple ifs, which means here instead of one criteria you will have multiple criterias. Let's look at it how that falls into a formula. Let's see, equals sum if s, sum ifs, open bracket. So you're going to have the sum range, so I'm going to check this one, comma, the criteria range. The criteria range is, say, greater than, okay, open apostrophe, greater than, sales is greater than, say, 90. So we put and sign in the cell number, comma, that's the criteria. Oh, hey, wait, so you have criteria range over here, so your sum range and criteria range will be the same. Comma, okay, so you're looking for your this is what you're adding, or this is what the sum is, and your criteria is also in this location. Okay, and your criteria is that it should be more than $90. Okay, comma. Now you have the option to enter one more criteria. Okay, so criteria range number 2 will be, I'm looking for representative, comma. Okay, and the name of that person should be Jim. Okay, so I have one criteria that it's greater than $90, and second criteria is that in this range the name should be G7, that is Jim. Close the bracket, enter, $245. Now let's see if that really worked. Sorry, so above $90, and so the sale should be above $90 and the name should be Jim. So both the values of Jim actually adds to this value, or is pulled by the formula. Now if I say to actually show you how this works, this is really working. Got to remove this. This is the Sumifs. Okay, now I'll try to change the value to Jim sale above $100. So we are trying to pull Jim sale above $100. So you see that you have two values over here. When I put above $100, it pulled 145, which is accurate. So ifs is basically you're adding in more criteria. So if you can see, there is criteria 1, criteria 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Concentrate on the sum if, and ifs is adding into the initial set of constraints. Alright, so that is the equals to sign. Now going to the not equal to. Alright, so I hope you have a clear idea about how these sum of formulas are created, and the rest of them are fairly simple. It's only a matter of how you use the criteria. Here, for example, if you're going to go look at not equal to, right, there is a specific way you mention that in the formula, right? For not equal to, you will have to use this to mention a criteria. I will show how that works. Here, let's do, we don't need 3 columns here. Okay, equals sum if, bracket, and you're going to search in this range, comma. The criteria is that it should, one second. So as I mentioned, the way you do that is putting this symbols, okay, not equal to. Now I can type in Apple if I want to, but as I mentioned, the best way to do that is always use cell reference. So close apostrophe, put and as a, it's like a combination method, and I'll put select the cell. So select in the range where not equivalent to this cell value, comma, and what do you want to add? It's this, right? This is what you have to add based on the criteria from the fruit. So what you're doing is you're searching or adding the quantity of all fruits except for apple. So sum if the values are not related to apple. Close the bracket, enter. 19. So let's add them manually and see, and that is 19. Alright, so pretty straightforward. And like we did before, I'll drag it down to select the formulas or copy the formulas, but there's something that we haven't done, which is edit the formula to lock the ranges. So if I select, since I dragged it, what happens is the reference automatically changes. So if I double click on the apple, you see that it's selected exactly how we need it. Okay, now if I select the formula in the orange, you see that reference is moved down. So always when you copy the formula by clicking and dragging the plus sign from the corner, make sure you have the references correct, or your whole formula will go upside down. So here, even though the value of apple keeps changing, I want the range where it's searching and where it's adding to remain the same. So I'll put a $ before the B and the 14, again B, $ before B and before 17, again before, no, not G14, that is the before C for C, and 14 C and 7. Oops, you can edit the formula over here. This is the formula bar C, 17. So you see the change what I did. I put the $, which means when we drag the values down, these values B14, B17, C14, C17 doesn't change. Always make sure your formulas are correct when you drag it. It's an easier way to do it, but always make sure the formulas are correct. So other than orange, we have 17, which is correct, and cherry, other than cherry, we have 15 different fruits. All right, going back to sum of blank or not blank. Now invoice number, this is a typical example. We are looking at whether the payables have done a payment or not. So let's mention paid for this particular invoice. Now what we want is the formula to calculate the paid and non-paid invoices amounts automatically over here. And for that, what you have to do is pretty simple. All you have to do is mention paid, non-paid. Okay, not paid would be blank. Just give me a second over here. Okay, so it's easy. You put equals sum if. What you're searching is in this range, wherever it says paid. Okay, so criteria is paid, so I'll just select the cell, comma, and you have to sum the values. Enter. 160, 15 plus 145, 160. Wherever it's not paid, equals sum if. Okay, select here. Okay, now here if you see that it shows as there's no values that says no paid, only for the paid ones you have paid, right? For that you can put comma. Okay, just put 2 apostrophe with nothing in between, which simply says that it's blank, comma, you got to sum the values, close the bracket, enter. 2697. You can put the $. Let's check what is not paid. Not paid, not paid, not paid. 2677, 2677. So you learn the formulas over here. Here you have to mention whatever says paid, you refer the paid number, or actually wherever it says paid, it adds the value of the sum. When it is not paid, you're just searching the blank values, which is referenced by using 2 apostrophes. Alright, going forward with the dates, again No, we don't want an extra column here. This is all from the top when we try to create the values. Okay, you have to enter the value again, equals Sumif open bracket. What you're searching is before March, so date range is where your criteria is, comma, alright, open apostrophe. So the criteria is before March, which means less than, close the apostrophe, and there is a specific way you mention date, and that is first you use the combination and, you type in date, open brackets, year 2021. So as soon as you mention the date, it gives you the help over here. It shows you how to enter the year first, month is March, and before 1st of March, right? Close the bracket, comma, and we are back to adding the values from this range, sum range, close the bracket, enter. That's dollar. So what you're doing is you're searching for values that's before 1st March 2021, right? So your 1st March is here, and all the values above that is before 1st of March. When you add them manually, that's 536, you get 536. Now next one, you want to check for something that is April or later, so which is the same as the previous one. Only thing is you change the it should be Sumif open bracket, we search the dates, comma, open apostrophe. Now here there's a difference. Here you mentioned before March, here it's April or later, which means April is included. Okay, so what you do is you mention greater than and equal to, close apostrophe, combination and, type date, open brackets, year 2021, oops, parenthesis is closed, and date, oh okay, sorry, my num lock was 2021, comma, month April is 4, comma, date is 1, or day is 1, close the bracket, comma, sum of the range, which is the values, close the bracket, enter, $0. And why is that? Because we don't have anything from April. Suppose I change this to 15th of April. Let's see if the values change. Yeah, so that's 123, and before March got reduced because 15th April is obviously after March. Now greater than the date below, as I mentioned before, always referencing these dates in what do you call it, in a different cell is the most or the best way to use these formulas. Okay, so you don't have to actually enter the date, comma, 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 you just mention the date separately. And let's see how we can do it. Equals sum if, okay, you change the range, select the range where you want the criteria to work, comma, and you want to check greater than, so open apostrophe, greater than sign, close it, and combination and, okay, and instead of mentioning date from you actually select the cell where you're going to enter the date, comma, and you sum the range where you have the sales, close the bracket, enter. Okay, now that's $0 because we don't have a date yet. Now what I'll do is I'll mention greater than date. So anything that is greater than 15th Feb, or say 25th Feb, I need to be added. So basically Feb. So I'll mention 25 Feb here, and you see that formula gets updated automatically. So 25 Feb is here. So apart from that, if you add the other values, you'll get 1334. No, you will not, because there is one Feb over here. So that's first one, the third row, and the fifth row. 1179. Huh? Did I mess up something? Greater than 25th Feb. Yeah, how would Jan come? That's before Feb. Sometimes I do, and this is why I have 1 minute delays for my emails. Always makes a small error. So you add after 25th Feb, you get 15th April and 1st March. That's 1077. You are correct. Okay, now wildcards. This is very important, or very important sense it gives some easy way of sorting or finding formulas. I'll just mention date over here. Okay, and yeah, Sumif with wildcards. What does wildcard mean? You want to pull data which has starting with all words starting with MO, or actually MI. We don't have MO over there. Okay, ensign TO, ensign say TA. We have something with ensign TA, and contains 4 characters. Okay, let's see how this can be worked out. Again, let's do equals Sumif. Okay, we're going to search the state, comma, which begins with MI. Here what you do is open apostrophe, type in MI, put a star after MI, which basically means starts with MI, okay, and ending can be anything, any other character, okay, and how many ever number of characters it has to be. Close apostrophe, comma, sum the values, whichever has the MI starting with. Close the bracket, enter. 854. So everything that starts with MI, Minnesota and Michigan. We add these two, 854, 854. Next one, what you do is equals, similar to the other one, you mention Sumif, open bracket, select the range, comma. Any guess how this is going to be? So instead of the star coming after the MI, here it's going to be star coming first, which means it can be anything ending in TA. Close apostrophe, comma, sum of the range, close the bracket, enter. $455. So which means anything that ends in TA, that's 455. There you go. Contains 4 characters. Okay, so I'll explain one more thing after this. So 1 character. Multiple characters. So if you put a star, what it means is it searches for anything after or before, and it doesn't have to be 1 number or 2 number. It can 2 characters. It can be any characters. Like it says MI, and it can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 alphabets after that. It still will pull or add the sum. Michigan, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it doesn't matter because it starts with Michigan, MI, and adds it. Similar to TA, doesn't matter how many number of characters are there before the TA, it just matters that it ends in the alphabets T and A, TA, TA, right? Now, one character is referred by a question mark, which means if I mention here the question mark, enter, it will not bring me any value because after MI there can be only one character. That is why you have question mark to specifically mention one character. So if I mention this as MICHIGA, okay, enter, it brings Michigan, because after MICHIGA, the question mark indicates one character, which can be anything. It can be Z, it can be R, it can be anything for that matter, but there can be only one character after all the rest. So let's leave this as star. Back to our original formula, enter. Okay, so how that helps us is, if you look here, I'm trying to find all the state that has 4 characters in it. That's it, nothing more. Anything other than that I'll not add. So which is equal to Sumif, the range that you want to search, comma, instead of star, what I'll do is open apostrophe and put 4 question mark, 1 2 3 4 question mark, close the apostrophe, comma, sum range, close the bracket, enter, 153, which brings you Iowa. Okay, so one character is referred by a question mark. If you put 2 question mark, that refers to 2 characters, okay, before or after your search string. So get this clear. Star means can be any number of characters, one character is question mark, and the multiples of question marks basically indicates the number of characters you want to be searched. So that's wildcards, and this kind of winds up our Sumif and Sumifs function. Similar to the Sumif, okay, the Countif is exactly the same, alright, except that instead of adding the values, it will count the number of values. That's the only difference. That's a complicated one. I'll explain that in a second. So here, if I'm putting Countif, that's my $sign, this is supposed to be just a number. It brings 4 sales are there that are above $100. So count is exactly same. The formula of Countif and Countifs is exactly the same as Sumif and Sumifs. Only difference is that instead of adding the values, it will count the values. In all these sections, it's exactly the same, right? Just give that a try, do it by yourself, and if you have any doubts, do mention it on the comments, and I'll be glad to help you out. Right, thank you so much. Oh, before I let you go off, let me just explain how this formula works. Oh, what does this formula work? This is how it can get complicated, but again, it's not complicated if you can understand the formula. This requires some joined and search formulas in this. If you're ready, I'll start off.